So in this video, we're going to go over the workflow for the coding agent. It's a LlamaIndex workflow. Let's look at the constructor first. We set the LLM to be used, and then we check if the mode is valid. If it is, then we set the mode. We also initialize the chat history for the agent. Then we set whether the agent should auto-approve or the action that it takes. If we look at the diagram, we can see that the start event runs the first step, which is the start new task step. Let's create that step. First, we get the user's task from the input. Then we save the task to the workflow context. Finally, we return another event, which is the new task created event. We can see that this event runs the next step, which is to generate the system prompt. Let's create that step. First, we get the user's task from the workflow context. Then we call the getSystemPrompt function, passing in the mode that the agent is running in and also the user's task. And then we get the fully formatted system task. If we look at this getSystemPrompt function, we can see that it's fairly straightforward. So it just combines all the prompts that we have, passing in the right context. For example, the current working directory, what's the current time, the operating system, the shell that's been used, all of that. So getting back to the workflow, we can see that finally in this step, we trigger the next event, which is the prompt generated event. We pass in two arguments with this event, the formatted system prompt itself, and as it's the system prompt, we set the system prompt flag to true. Now let's see what's next in the workflow. You can see that this is the prompt generated event, and this runs the next step, which is to prompt the LLM. Let's create that step. First, we get the prompt that we passed when we triggered this event. So if it's a system prompt, just like in our previous step where it was a system prompt, we add the system role to our new chat message and append it to the chat history of our agent. And if it's not a system prompt, we just give it the general user role and add that to the chat history. Now we call the LLM with the current chat history and get the response back. We add that response to the agent's chat history, and then we trigger the next event, which is the LLM responded event, passing in the string response. So this LLM responded event calls our next step, which handles the response. Let's create that step. So this is the handle response step. First, it gets the string response from the previous step. We use some pattern matching to see if the LLM used the right format for tool calling. If it didn't, we ask the LLM to use the right format. And then we just clean up the response a bit. For example, getting rid of the thinking tags, getting rid of the tool call, etc. And then we call the parseToolCall function, passing in the response and get the tool back. This is the tool that the LLM decided to call in this particular step. If the tool call is not valid, for example, wrong formatting, we ask the LLM to try again with the correct format. And finally, we trigger the next event, which is the tool call required event, passing in the tool to use. And the tool call event runs the next step to use the tool. Let's create that new step. From the tool input that we passed from the last step, we extract the name of the tool and the arguments for the tools first. We use try and except block for the tool call so that if any error occurs during the tool call, we can ask the LLM to try again. And now we just go over the list of our tools and call the correct tool with the correct arguments. We can see that if the tool that's being used is the attempt completion tool, then the agent has completed the task. So we can just stop our workflow and we call the stop event with a message that the task has been completed. Otherwise, we trigger the prompt generated event again with the tool output. For all the other cases, it triggers the prompt generated event, passing in the output of the tool call as the prompt. And it keeps running in a loop like this until it uses the attempt completion tool, and then it triggers the stop event, which terminates the workflow. In the next videos in this series, we're going to go over each of these tools and see how they all work. Thank you for watching.